everybody, welcome to The Garage, the court of public opinion. Whether you're listening to us as a podcast or you're viewing us on Facebook, welcome. Peter Clayton's behind the camera. Some interesting stuff to tell you about today. Start us all thinking. There's never a lack of things to talk about. But first, happy birthday if you're having a birthday or a wedding anniversary. It's June 14. June 14. When's your birthday, Pete?
10th of November.
Right, okay. I write everything down, and sometimes I really need to. The older I get, the more I forget. June 14. 1789, and Captain William Bligh, God, he must have been a fantastic sailor, navigator. He had a small group of loyal men cast off from HMS Bounty when the mutiny occurred. They reached Timor after sailing 5,800 kilometres in a 6-metre launch with no navigational devices whatsoever. Just their seamanship and instinct. But, good sailor, nasty man. Downright bastard he was. 1951, the first commercial computer. Wow, that's a red letter day. UNIVAC 1 enters service at the Census Bureau. 1951. The first computer. Golly. Anne Frank begins her diary in 1942. The recording of the first country music hit, which I was going to say in America, but that would make it the world. Pete, what do you think was the first country music hit?
Johnny Cash, I Walk the Line.
No. Oh my God, that's modern. No, this is going back to, I've never heard of it. 1923. Can't tell you the record company, but I can tell you the name of the song. A Little Old Log Cabin in the Lane. Little Old Log Cabin in the Lane. We'll have to Google that and see who sang it or wrote it. Argentina surrenders to Great Britain, ending the 74-day Falklands War in 1982, saving the election for Margaret Thatcher. It's amazing how we, the people, love a good war, particularly when we win it. We haven't won one for a long time, you know. Anyway, it's another story. I've told you that story before. First German air attack on England. It was the East End. 100 people were killed. 1917. I had no idea that the Germans would have had bombers, let alone bombers with the range that could drop bombs on London. Golly. Ronald Reagan is knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in 1989. It's an honorary knighthood. I don't think he ever used it. But a lot of people have honorary knighthoods and don't use them. The player piano was patented by John McTammany, Cambridge, Massachusetts, 1881. The player piano. Donald Trump, 1946, 45th President of the United States, real estate tycoon, Trump Towers, TV personality. Born in New York City, in New York, 1946. He's 1 year older than me. No, 1 year younger than me. Yeah. Hank Mancini, wonderful. American-German Academy Award-winning film, television composer, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Peter Gunn, the Pink Panther films, arranger, conductor. He dies of pancreatic cancer at the age of just 70 in 1994. Elvis Presley graduates from L.C. Humes High School in Memphis, Tennessee, on this day in 1953. And this wonderful guy, Burl Ives. I wonder what Burl is short for. I suppose Burlington or some name like that. But Burl Ives was a wonderful talent, American folk singer. Well, he did later on in a solo pop career, things like A Little Bitty Tear Let Me Down. There was
Marianne Regrets.
Marianne Regrets. she is unable to see you again. She's leaving for Europe next week. She'll be busy till then.
I know she still loves me.
I know she still loves me. And if I'd let her alone, today she'd be wearing my ring instead of a blanket of stone. I know, it's a wonderful song. That's fantastic. And a great actor, too. He did Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I liked him a lot. He died in 1995, but he was born 1909. And I think that will about do us. Yeah. Anyway, hope it's going to be a really nice day if you're celebrating it. All of the things for which we remember the day. We all have a different set of memories, which is good. The text messages and phone calls in the Brittany Higgins case. What a can of worms. Golly. David Shiraz, the boyfriend, is in the thick of it. Katie Gallagher involvement makes it highly political. Who said what to whom and when, and who knew what and when? The accusations of orchestration and weaponizing of the whole thing. Just who was pulling the strings? Now keep in mind the time in which all of this was going on, the time in which it was all set. Labor's narrative in opposition was, the coalition has a problem with women. Then there was the Me Too movement at the same time. I asked you last week, why did the government of the day think it should, with nothing proven, think it should pay Brittany $3 million? For what? It looks a lot like hush money. Morrison wanted this whole thing to go away. Or maybe it was his advisers. Or maybe it was the cabinet. But the point is, it wasn't their money. It's our money. All of this could be the subject of an inquiry by this new highfalutin federal corruption commission, which could be, for Katie Gallagher and this Labor government, a bit like the Watergate scandal. More serious than the old he said, she said. If the Liberals want to pursue it, and they will if they can make a Katie misled Parliament accusation stick, they will pursue it. I mean, look, in all honesty, misleading Parliament is one thing. But what I really don't like is the way in which they all mislead the public. That should be the real hanging offence, in my opinion. Saw on the news the other night a few, I suppose you'd call them, helpful hints for us to consider as we open our skyrocketing electricity bills. It turned out to be, when I looked at it, a pitch for some solar company. Yeah. We have newsrooms filled with journalists. And the best they can do is suggest that we spend a fortune on solar on our roofs, when it would be much more appropriate for these journos to be doing stories on why we have, in this most energy-rich country in the world, the most expensive electricity costs in the world. That is the real story, and it has nothing to do with the war in Ukraine. It would be much cheaper all round to just kick this government out of office, frankly. These people in Canberra want us to spend a huge amount of money to subsidise their pursuit of renewables. If you look at it in the cold, hard light of day, we export our coal and gas, which is merrily burnt and used by other people to their advantage, but not us. We suffer a real penalty while others enjoy what we could have. Come on. Come on. That's the real story. It's the same environment, by the way. We use our resources here and save money, or we send them over there and they enjoy the benefits and save the money. If it's pollution you're worried about, whether it's here or there, it makes absolutely no difference, except to our household bills. Why does this government want to provide cheap electricity for people overseas and not us? They are the Australian government. They're not the world government. They're elected to look after us, not the world. Anyway, when pollution goes into the atmosphere, anywhere, it goes into the same atmosphere. Yep. It's bad enough that the government would have such a stupid policy, but for the media not to be taking them to task, talking about it, is unbelievable, unreasonable, and unacceptable. Coming up, I want to talk to you about some heroic failures. I mean, if you're going to have... I seem to remember there was a book. I wish years ago when I had the opportunity I would have catalogued all my books so I knew exactly where everyone was. But there was a book, I remember, called Heroic Failures. And it branched out into all sorts of other things. There was another one that came out, Heroic Theatrical Failures and Heroic Automobile Failures. There was a whole collection of them. No, we're good at failing. It's all right. We are. But that's later. Okay. A message from Pat. Did I bring it? Hang on. Yeah. Pat says, you've seen these ads for the referendum on television. Why are there no black people in the ads? No, I don't know. Pat, I've got no idea. I haven't noticed that. But if you're going to do a promo for the referendum, you would indeed have black people in the ad. Preferably a mixture, I suppose. I'll open my eyes and have a look next time. The AEC, speaking of the voice thing, the AEC, the Australian Electoral Commission, is going bush. Going bush. To run people living in remote areas of Australia through a, well, I don't know exactly how to explain it, a sort of a...
Brainwashing?
No, I will, your words. A sort of mock referendum. So it's said, so that they know what it's all about. Now, what they should do, really, the AEC, the Australian Electoral Commission, doesn't do that with any other part of the democratic process. Not that I can remember. Why is it doing it over the referendum? Surely they must be concerned as to how this might look. How are you going to do this without looking like you are coaching people or leading the witness? Now, there should be somebody who can check up on this. So far, I have seen it go pretty much straight through to the keeper. But it is on the books to happen. If it's not happening now, it's going to happen in a month or so time. Isn't it condescending to say to people, you're not savvy enough to understand what's going on here? This isn't right, ladies and gentlemen. It's another example of treating people differently on the basis of their skin. It's apartheid. It's racism. Now, I am sure Aboriginal people can handle and understand exactly what's going on and what they want and what their rights are. White Australia is being led to believe that black Australia is all for this thing. So what is this costly excursion? And how are you possibly going to reach out to the thousands, possibly tens of thousands of remote Aboriginal communities to do this? Boy, there's a story in there. New waste-busting legislation, states and territories have stepped in, tired of the industry not taking the situation seriously. They're going to enforce strict regulations with regard to how products, including food, can be packaged. An excellent idea, and it's about time. Have you ever been to one of those completely different subject train expos? Pete, have you ever seen them?
No.
Well, I'm gobsmacked. We had one on the weekend here, just gone by, the long weekend. Truly amazing. A train expo. People come and take hours and hours, days, to set these amazingly complicated systems up, the tiniest detail. If you've got a magnifying glass, the devotion with which people build, construct these intricate, perfect train systems is amazing. Miles of track, little villages and people and trees. It is truly the art of perfection. It is art and it is perfect. I don't have any idea how much money these people spend on some of these model train things. In my day, the best I could come up with was a Hornby thing. And it was sort of one train, a couple of carriages. I guess you could add to it over the time. But it was not a complicated, it was a wind-up thing, not electric, nothing like that. But these things that they have, they've got signals. The most amazing, amazingly complicated computer run. Fantastic. Oh yes, inventions. I wanted to talk. Pete, have we got time? Inventions that missed it. And what got me thinking about it was something about plastic skin. Now, I can remember as a kid, if you skinned your knee, well, I didn't know, not if you skinned your knee, when you skinned your knee. I spent my whole life with skinned knees. You can't climb willow trees, ladies and gentlemen, without skinning your knees. But this thing was going to revolutionise the treatment of wounds. I think there's some highfalutin thing that they do these days for burn victims, but this was in a plastic tube that you got from the chemist. I remember it stung like hell. Something else was a glorious failure. It was going to revolutionise. All these ideas are going to revolutionise everything. It was going to revolutionise transport. It was a two-wheeled thing that you stood on, and I think they call it a Segway. And it was billed as the most significant invention of the century. A lot of hype. Can you think of any, Pete?
Not offhand.
There was the Betamax. The Betamax was a failure. Flying tanks. They never got off the ground. But an interesting idea, flying tanks. Google Glass, that came and went. The Ford Pinto, that sort of came and went, and I remember there was a lot of smoke and flame.
The Zeta.
The Zeta, yes, that was a courageous one, the Zeta. New Coke when there was nothing wrong with the old Coke. You know, you can put a lot of this down to the 12-year-old in the marketing department. You really can. There was the electric pen. The electric pen. The famous Ford Edsel, which entered in the very early days the book of automotive heroic failures. I don't know why. No idea. It was ugly. Just ugly. Ugly, 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 ugly. But these days you see so many ugly cars that could probably pass for being okay. And I remember at, I better not say which radio station, but there was this thing with a lot of hype that they introduced called GOAT. And GOAT was supposed to be the bigger than Google. You know, you'd be able to ask GOAT anything. I don't know what happened to goat. This is only a couple of years ago. Maybe they're still working on it. Oh yeah, and there's another one, spray on hair. Spray on hair. No, can't do that. But apparently people have spray on hair. Or somebody thought it was a good idea. Hoverboards. Now they kept on bursting into flames, a bit like the Pinto. How about the big pen for her? The big pen for her. It was pink and small and twice the price of the regular big pens. What could possibly go wrong? The Rams. Does anyone remember the Rams? A big idea to introduce rugby league to South Australia. A lot of people put a lot of money into that. Oh, and don't forget the Australian Republic. That was a heroic failure. Perhaps my favourite is Harley Davidson perfume. Now, they got in and out of that business very quickly. I mean, what comes to your mind when you use the words Harley Davidson? You know, they're very noisy, very fast, very macho, very aggressive. Anyway, they came up with a perfume, Harley Davidson perfume, and they called it Hot Rod. Believe it or not, Hot Rod. What? No, I think I'll just leave that alone. You know, it must have seemed like a good idea at the time, that's all I can say. You know, Pete, we could put together a completely separate show on heroic failures like this, ideas that missed it by that much. Does anyone, oh yeah, does anyone still have a waterbed?
Doubt it.
What happened to waterbeds? I don't know. I've never tried one. They must have had something going for them. You know, waterbeds. Gee whiz. I don't know. Anyway, we better leave it there. Go and have a glass of red or something. You take care of yourselves. I'm Jeremy Cordeux, Peter Clayton, and I will be back tomorrow in the Court of Public Opinion. Believe in yourself. And thank you for viewing, or if you're listening to us as a podcast, thank you for listening. And goodbye for now.